The acid is the first line of defense, and that's going to kill anything that shouldn't belong. But the problem is that with low acid, now it becomes a free passageway of these stealth pathogens. I'm talking about parasites, candida, mold, which I suffered with significantly. Literally took me out. I almost died from it. Inflammatory bacteria like Pseudomonas and Citrobacter and all these other pathogens that should not belong, but that we're exposed to every day. So again, low stomach acid, they go into the gut microbiome, they set up shop, they have babies, they build communities, and what happens? Just like a stealth fighter, you don't know it's there until you're dead.
Welcome to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your host, Jenn, talking wellness and weight loss for real life. We're here to clear up the myths, misinformation, bad science, and marketing to teach you how to eat and how to cheat. Are you ready? I'm having salad with a side of fries. Hey friend, welcome back to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm Jenn, your host and health coach, here with you every week for wellness without the weirdness. And we're continuing to dig deeper into gut health because it tends to be the source of many people's questions, and frankly, rightfully so, right? We are all learning how critical gut health is for the health of every system in the body, right? Our overall well-being, just everything. So let me introduce you to this week's featured expert. He's a highly sought-after gut health and inflammation specialist with over 2 decades of experience in the field. Having overcome a lifelong sugar addiction, you're in good company. In addition to his own gut and mold toxicity issues, he knows firsthand what it takes to overcome adversity and challenges in the pursuit of superior health. In addition to running successful Alchemind brand, he is the founder of Kick Acid Enterprises, a virtual nutrition testing and coaching platform focusing on getting to the root cause of inflammation by restoring, balancing, and strengthening the microbiome, what he calls gut fitness. He's also board-certified chiropractor, Reiki master, certified raw food chef, and author of the best-selling book, Get Off Your Acid and Get Off Your Sugar, Burn the Fat, Crush Your Cravings, and Go from Stress Eating to Strength Eating. He's a passionate motivational speaker and has been featured in many health documentaries and health summits. Currently, he sits on the Fran Drescher's Cancer Schmancer Medical and Wellness Advisory Board. He's appeared on Live with Kelly and Ryan, Good Morning America, Access Hollywood, The Doctors, Extra, E! News, People Magazine, Vogue, Daily Mail, Page Six, and now Salad with a Side of Fries. So joining us from Naples, Florida, right? Joining us from Naples, Florida, where he lives with his wife, 2 dogs, and 2 kids, I give you Dr. Daryl Gioffre.
Woo! By the way, I love how the 2 dogs came before the 2 kids.
I know.
It's pretty much how it is in this family.
It's literally that my eyes read faster than the words can come out of my mouth.
Yeah, totally. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for that introduction, and such a pleasure and a blessing to be here. And I got to say, I think of all the podcasts out there, you have the very best name for any podcast. Love it. So awesome.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, it's funny. I've ended up rebranding my entire business around Salad with a Side of Fries because it was just way better than the brand that I came up with in 2007. So, you know. So I'm thrilled you're here. I want to start with your story, and then we'll kind of dig deep into everything. Really quick, though, we got to tell our members what they're getting this week. So members, your recipe this week is for turkey burgers with spinach, feta, and tzatziki. So for everyone who says they're sick of chicken, I get it, right? And it's also grilling season, and you're like, I don't know what to make other than chicken or red meat on the grill because burgers are easy. This one is absolutely for you. Then from Dr. Gioffre, you're getting his 3-day gut detox. So Daryl, give us like the 20, 30-second description of the download that they're getting.
It's incredible. You got to do it. It's like not like a deprivation-based cleanser detox like most of us think about. You're not going to be on the toilet. You're not going to be hangry. It's awesome because you start on day 1. You're super excited. Then comes day 2 and like, oh, what? Tomorrow's day 3, we're over. So 3 days, anybody can do it. It's based on adding foods into the body that are going to strengthen the gut microbiome, detoxify you. On average, people lose between 3 and 7 pounds, and it's going to kick the acid out of the body, and you're just going to feel like a different person. It's a great reset, and yeah, I recommend everybody do it. It's awesome, and I'm happy to provide that for everybody.
Absolute. Fabulous. So all of our members, you're going to get that download in your email. And then, because it's June, the 3rd month of the quarter, it's time for your quarterly live Q&A. So again, by popular demand, this is a one-on-one. So your email on Friday will have the details for you to schedule a time that's convenient for you. So if you want this recipe, the 3-day gut detox from Dr. Gioffre, or the one-on-one with me, be sure you're a member. Go to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries. For just $10 a month, you get weekly recipes, a monthly article or tool, extra discounts from me and our partners, plus access to live Q&A sessions. It's a total deal. I really say it's a steal because when you take advantage of the full offerings, you're saving far more than that $10 cost. It really is a no-brainer way to show yourself that your health is a priority. It's like dipping your toe in the water of going a little bit further than listening to the podcast, right? Being a member then also helps support this podcast and this community so we can continue to do this with you every week. So remember, all you have to do is go to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries, or just click the link in the show notes because that's a lot easier. Once you're there, you click support now, enter your email and payment info, click subscribe, and you're all set. You'll get this week's recipe for the turkey burgers with spinach, feta, and tzatziki, Dr. Gioffre's 3-day gut detox, and your quarterly live Q&A, just you and me for 30 minutes.
Awesome.
Okay, Daryl, let's start with your story because we heard a little bit of it in introducing you, but like so many of us, this starts from our own experience. And I know you now live in Florida, but you were a New Yorker, so I feel like we're a vibe.
Right on.
But tell us your story.
New Yorker at heart, New Yorker at heart. And there's so many levels to my story. You started out with a sugar addiction, but I'm going to tell you what really changed the course of my life that made me become this gut specialist where I am today. So it was 2014. It was a perfect fall day in New York City, our favorite place, right? And it was a week before the New York City Marathon, and I've been wanting to run
my favorite day of the year, by the way.
It's awesome. It's such a huge event, and one of the best days in New York City. And I've been wanting to run the marathon for like 20 years. And today I'm in my final training run in Central Park, and I'm just picturing myself going through the finish line. My wife Chelsea will be there. My son Braden, who was born 6 months ago, would be there, and my parents were driving down from Vermont to come watch the big race as well. All of a sudden, my phone starts vibrating in my pocket. So I pull the phone out, I see a missed call from my brother, Brandon. So I take a crazy selfie mid-stride, send it back to him, put the phone back in, keep running. Literally 5 seconds later, phone starts vibrating again. Take it out, and then I read the words, call, emergency. And then immediately, I knew there was something that happened to my mom and dad that were driving down again from Vermont. So they were in just before Hartford. It's like 91 South. Anyone that's from the Northeast knows this area. It's like a super busy, heavy highway. And they were in the HOV lane. So my dad was always the driver. My mom was in the passenger seat, knitting a sweater for my son, Braden, when all of a sudden she feels the car veering off to the left. Well, there's one problem, a concrete divider driving 70 miles per hour, right? So she looks over at my father, and
Yikes.
there she sees him. Yeah, there she sees him passed out against the window like this. So the car goes up the concrete divider. She literally leans over, pulls his leg off the accelerator. Car comes back down. It goes back up again. She grabs the keys from the ignition, pulls them out, and the car comes to a grinding halt. And now I find myself in a zip car because, in New York City, we don't have cars.
Right.
We do zip cars. Anyone out there who doesn't know what a zip car is, they think we're nuts, but yeah, we are. So I'm in a zip car driving up to the hospital in Hartford. And along the way, as a doctor, I'm trying to think about, like, why did my dad pass out? Was it a heart attack? Was it a stroke? Was it an aneurysm? And when I get to the hospital, I start talking to the doctor. He says, your dad has esophageal cancer. I'm like, what? Esophageal cancer? You're kidding. So 3 days later, we're the top specialist in New York City at Sloan Kettering, the top specialist in esophageal cancer. And he proceeds to tell me and my family, the good news, your dad's cancer hasn't spread. And things like this are usually caused by too much acid in the stomach. Hold that thought. We're going to come back to that because that's an important thing I just said right
We
there.
are, yep.
Yeah. And it's crazy because everyone looks at me right away because I'm wearing this shirt that says, get off your acid. And that night I'm giving a keynote address at this huge wellness convention in New York City. And I'm talking about the connection between toxins, inflammation, too much acidity in the body and its tissues, and that connection to cancer and other inflammatory diseases. So it was kind of just a very fortuitous moment. So anyway, as an investigator, I just start really following the evidence. I start looking up all the different research studies on esophageal cancer, calling every expert that I know. And I'm thinking to myself, like, why did this happen? How did my dad get to this point? Why didn't we recognize this dry hacking cough that he had for so many years and connect that to what's going on right now? And most important, what do we need to do to turn this around and change the situation? So 3 years pass, and now I'm in a car ride up to Connecticut. It's my birthday. I'm going to see my dad with my family. We get there, and I see my dad. He's lost a lot of weight. You could tell he's losing the fight. And we had a beautiful day with the family. And then I drive back to the city. Literally 2 hours later, I get a call from my brother. He's like, you got to get up here. Dad's in a coma on life support. So now this time I couldn't drive. I was such a wreck, and I'm taking a train up. We gather around my father in the ICU, and I'm holding my dad's hand. And it was in that moment where I said, Dad, I'm so sorry that I couldn't save your life. I'm so sorry that we couldn't, turn this thing around. And at that time, I gave him a vow. And I said, Dad, this is going to be my mission in life. I'm going to do whatever I can to prevent as many people from suffering the way that you did. And then right then they pulled the tube out and he died as I was holding his hand. So this has become my mission in life.
Wow.
This is such an important topic. Hippocrates said, look to the gut. It's where all disease begins. He was right. But here's the problem, Jen, is that no doctors are talking about this. There's so many downstream issues that so many of us are suffering with, and we are suffering, so many of us. And we have to really look at the gut because it is such a critical factor for inflammation and all things else, which I know we're going to dive into. But this is why I'm here. And thank you for having me on, because this is why I do what I do. I want to help. If we could help one person today, this was worth our time.
1,000%. So you mentioned sugar, right? We've talked about inflammation, acid, gut health. Walk everybody through the connection between acid, gut health, inflammation, sugar too, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we don't die of old age. We die of inflammation. I mean, that's the most important thing. Right. It's like no one dies of old age. It's, there's all these different diseases out there, heart disease, cancer. And by the way, cancer now has overtaken heart disease as the #1 killer in 21 states. You got to understand, our genes have not changed for 40,000 years, right? So this is not a gene issue. This is an epigenetic issue, which means the lifestyle choices we make, how you think, how you eat, how you move, lack thereof, that is going to dictate your longevity, the quality of life, the quality of your energy. There's things like diabetes, Alzheimer's. By the way, growing up, we never even heard the word Alzheimer's. It wasn't because it wasn't not discovered back then. It's because so much has changed in our environment, not just the internal environment, but the external environment, which is literally dictating so much of what happens to our health. And that is changing the way that we live. I mean, for the first time in human history, our children, I have a 7 and 10-year-old now, so this is something I'm very passionate about. But for the first time in human history, our children have less of a lifespan than we do. How crazy is that? And again, when we look at the reasons why, it's because of our diet. You mentioned sugar. I mean, sugar is not a food, it's a drug. It's literally become America's drug of choice. The average American is consuming 130 pounds of this white stuff every single year. That equates to about 38 teaspoons a day. When you break that down, here's the problem with that. Your liver can't metabolize more than 6 teaspoons. So anything above and beyond that, these added sugars, it literally becomes a toxic poison to the body. It creates acid. This is what we have to know about sugar. Sugar equals acid, acidity equals inflammation. So anything that we're eating that drives up inflammation in our body is bad. So things, it's what I call the WMD's SSS diet. All right. These things create acid in the body because they metabolize into these acidic substances that create inflammation, leaky gut, irritation, all these other problems. So we're talking about wheat and gluten-containing grains. We're talking about meat. And listen, animal protein is good. I eat it. I'm talking about the quantity that you eat. We can get into this later if you want, but more important, the quality of you eat. It's not about the meat that you're eating. It's about what the meat that you're eating is eating. They're giving things like growth hormone and antibiotics and vaccines and corn. And soy, which is omega-6 fats. They drive up inflammation. I mean, even when you eat things like salmon these days, this is why I'm such a big stickler to wild caught salmon, never have farm salmon, because they're literally injecting these fish with pink dye to make it look like it was caught out in Alaska, right? So you have dairy. We're the only mammals that consume another mammal's breast milk after weaning, right? Then we have the 3 S's. There's sugar, seed oils, and sweeteners. And all those things I just mentioned metabolize to acid. Wheat becomes sulfuric acid. Dairy becomes lactic acid. Animal protein becomes sulfuric acid, nitric acid, phosphoric acid. There's things like coffee. I mean, it goes on and on and on. The point is, when we eat something, it's either going to make you healthier, it's going to make you sicker, right? It's going to give you energy, or it's going to actually deplete your body. So this is the way we need to think when we're putting foods into the body. It's not about being perfect. It's really about finding a balance that works for you. And that's really the key thing that I'm all about. It's not about deprivation at all, ever.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to eventually get to, sort of what we're going to add in, like that strength eating that you talk about. But I want to pause for a second. Acid diagnoses of too much acid, like your dad, right? I think it's 1 in 3 people have GERD, right? So what is it? And you started to talk about this with your dad and the doctor, right? What is it that our doctors are getting wrong or not understanding that we can clarify for everybody, because it can't all be, too much acid and then everybody taking the antacids, which then has a whole...
I just got the chills.
Yeah.
This is the most important thing we're going to talk about today. What I'm going to talk about is the cause of all dis-ease, which is lack of balance and harmony in your body, which leads to disease. And this is where my dad's doctor got it wrong. For such a brilliant person, I mean, we have so many bright doctors out there, but this is crazy, is that he said the cause of your dad's cancer was too much acid in the stomach. I just want to say one thing. When I say get off your acid, I'm not referring to the acid in your stomach. I'm referring to the acidity in your tissues that's causing you to rust and rot from the inside out. It's like if you put acid, in a bowl with some chicken bones there, it's going to dissolve the chicken bones. It can eat its way through metal. So think about what that does to your body, to your gut, your cardiovascular system, your tissues, right? That's bad. When we talk about stomach acid, that is good. Like, we need stomach acid. It's critical. I always say, as we get older, we don't get stronger, we get a little weaker. We don't get faster, we get a little slower. We don't produce more stomach acid, we produce less stomach acid. And the cause of acid reflux, and this is about 80% of the clients that I coach on the coaching side of what I do, the cause of acid reflux is not too much acid, it's too little acid. And by the way, that's supported by 16,000 research journal and articles out there. Now, it's the acid, this is where people get confused, because it's the acid that creates that like burning sensation that people get in their chest or the throat, which I call throat burn, or up into the sinuses, even to the ears and mouth. It's the acid that causes that, but it's not too much acid. What happens again is that it's less acid. And then what happens at night when we lay down, that reflux is back up into the esophagus and starts to cause problems, because the stomach was made for acid, right? It has a protective coating barrier of mucus, but the esophagus and the throat tissue doesn't. And the biggest issue with low acid as we age, and by the way, when we hit 20 years old, the research shows is that every decade we lose about 10% of our stomach acid levels. I'm going to submit to everybody that that number is significantly higher. Why? It's accelerated by this SAD, Standard American Diet, or what I call the WMD's diet. That stands for Weapons of Mass Destruction diet. It's accelerated by that, not to mention stress, right? Stress is more acidic to your body than anything you can eat or think. So these things in our lifestyle in 2024, because we're more toxic than we've ever been in human history, is going to accelerate that process. So again, what happens is we get less acid, and that creates three critical problems for everybody's health. Number one, I always say that you're not what you eat, you're what you digest, absorb, and assimilate. So you could be eating the best organic, strength-eating diet in the world, but if you're not breaking down those foods because you don't have enough stomach acid, then those nutrients that we should be getting into the body, into the cells, they never arrive. So now we're eating this healthy diet, but we're actually suffering malnutrition. How crazy is that? Number two, on that same kind of thought process, is that when we don't digest our food, now that food ends up in our gut, not a tiny little Jenn particle that you can take in to basically create fuel for your cells. It's a larger particle. This could be an avocado, which is like the best food in the world. I call it God's butter. But because it's not fully digested, the immune system that lives in your gut, and 80% of the immune system does live in your gut. This is why your gut, they call it the second brain. I actually call it the first brain because of that, right? It literally is going to attack that food. It's going to basically attack it. It's non-self. It's a foreign antigen, and that creates inflammation. That feeds the bad bacteria. It kills the good bacteria, and it causes leaky gut. The third problem, and probably the most significant, is that your gut and the acid in the stomach is your first line of defense. So when we're drinking water, when we're breathing in air, when we're eating food, and that comes down into the stomach acid should be killing off any pathogen. So not just digesting your food, but anything that shouldn't belong further downstream, it's going to be met and it's going to be killed right there. So I always say, like, my wife went to Michigan. They won the national championship this year. You want that Michigan defense. I'm
also a Wolverine. Go Blue.
Get out of here. I knew we vibe. Go Blue, go Blue. Yeah, so I hope there's no Buckeye fans listening to this one. If we do, we love you too.
They know this for a long time at this point. So,
okay.
If they're still here, they're with us.
if they're still here. They might not be, but we love you all, right? It's about health, not about football. We'll do that another time. So anyway, the acid is the first line of defense, and that's going to kill anything that shouldn't belong. But the problem is that with low acid, now it becomes a free passageway of these stealth pathogens. I'm talking about parasites, candida, mold, which I suffered with significantly. Literally took me out. I almost died from it. Inflammatory bacteria like Pseudomonas and Citrobacter and all these other pathogens that should not belong, but that we're exposed to every day. So again, low stomach acid, they go into the gut microbiome, they set up shop, they have babies, they build communities, and what happens? Just like a stealth fighter, you don't know it's there until you're dead, right? Stealth pathogens, everybody's got them. I've done thousands of microbiome testing. I've never not seen a stealth pathogen in the gut, sometimes less, sometimes more. But again, this is why my mission is to make sure that gut testing becomes a regular thing for everybody. Because if you don't know it's there because you're not having a symptom or you're not associating a symptom with your gut, then it's going to take you out like it did my dad, like it did me, and like it did my son as well. So this is awesome. I love that we're talking about this. But again, and we could give a very simple hack if you want to help people increase the stomach acid. But that is the cause of all disease.
Yeah, well, and I want to point out to everybody, by the way, that like the downstream issue may not be esophageal cancer. It might be weight gain. It might be, hormone dysfunction.
Hypothyroidism, brain fog, sleep issues in the gut. It could be acid reflux, like we're talking about, bloating, indigestion, constipation, diarrhea. Again, all these downstream problems that we're seeing. Your skin ages prematurely, you're premenopause. These are all inflammatory. And what causes inflammation? It stems from the gut, from these stealth pathogens and these food sensitivities. And then what happens is they start to leak through the gut wall. And now once they're in the body, they start attacking the body. It's the same thing that causes all autoimmune issues. Your immune system doesn't turn on your body and just start attacking your thyroid one day. How insane is that? And these doctors still are saying that. It's not the way it is. Your body's attacking the toxins, the stealth pathogens. There's collateral damage when that happens. And that collateral damage is your healthy cells when that infection's been in there for quite some time.
Excellent. So we are going to talk about what we can do, right? That simple trick to increase the stomach acid super quick. Let's take a break for our partner for this episode. Friends, if you're a fan of Salad with a Side of Fries and looking for how you can support us, we have you covered with our awesome merch. So as we talk about gut health today, you know what's not going to disrupt your gut health? Salad with a Side of Fries merch, right? In fact, it might even help. Because maybe merch is the perfect reminder to remind yourself of the commitment to your health. Super exciting. If you're a fan of the show, we have pieces where you can share if you are team fries or team salad, or from my nephew, he wants one of each. So whatever you want, but team salad or team fries, show us your pride. There's also the muscle tee that says you can't outrun your fork. And we have seasonal items, team salad, team fries, also the full logo on a new trucker hat, which I love. So there's also a new workout mat. Really, you owe it to yourself to check out what's there. Plus, you get to share, like I said, if you are hashtag team salad or hashtag team fries. So maybe you need a Father's Day gift. Head over to our website, asaladwithasideoffries.com. Browse the full collection. Snag the new water bottle, perfect for sipping around the house or on the go while enjoying our latest episode. You could take a piece of the podcast with you wherever you go. And like I said again, maybe these are your best anchors to remind yourself of your commitment to your health. So simply text the word fries, FRIES, to 844-947-4846. You'll receive the link right to your phone. Again, check out the Salad with a Side of Fries merch. Your purchase supports all the work we do here, shows your podcast pride, and maybe it sparks a conversation for you to pay it forward and inspire someone else to change their health too. So again, text the word fries, FRIES, to 844-947-4846. This is a toll-free number. Standard text and data rates may apply. Okay, so Dr. Daryl, like you, I often talk about what we're adding in versus what we're taking away. Before we get to some of those and, strength eating, give us the pro tip for supporting healthful acid.
Yep. Super easy. You're going to get some apple cider vinegar, raw, organic. And then what you're going to do is about 20 to 30 minutes before your biggest meal of the day. So for most people, that would be probably dinner time. You're going to get 1 tablespoon of the apple cider vinegar. And then you're going to mix that. Very important. You cannot drink that by itself because, again, it is an acidic acid outside of the body, right? But inside it becomes something very alkaline forming. So you want to mix it with some water. So I recommend about 1/3 cup of water. Now, ideally warm water. Now, it could be room temperature water, but warm water is even better because that's going to stimulate the gastric acid in your stomach, the gastrin, which again is going to make more hydrochloric acid. So you drink that on an empty stomach 20 to 30 minutes before. And what it's going to do is going to gently help increase the hydrochloric acid in your stomach. If there's any stealth pathogens like H. pylori that you don't even know are living in there, it will kill those too. And it helps your digestive enzymes. Now, one thing, if you have acid reflux, don't start with 1 tablespoon. All right. That would be very, very bad for you. So start with like half of a teaspoon to see kind of where you're at. Less is more. And again, make sure you dilute that with at least 1/3 cup of water. And for any reason, when you drink that, if that's too much for you, if that's too irritating, what you can do right afterwards is get a scoop of my acid kicking minerals, or you could just get like a teaspoon of baking soda, mix that with water, drink that, and that will just calm it right away. That'll calm down the fire. Because again, if I imagine I have a cut on my finger, if I put apple cider vinegar or lemon juice on that, we all know lemon juice is really good for you, right? It's high in minerals, low in sugar. And that's going to cause a lot of pain and irritation because you have a cut there. So when someone has acid reflux, and if there's a lot of inflammation and irritation in the esophageal lining, that could be the same thing. It could be too much for you. So that's why we want to start with less. And then if you're okay with a half of a teaspoon, then do that for a few days, like 3 days. Then you can go up to a full teaspoon. See where you're at with that. So again, that's for only people who are dealing with acid reflux now. If not, you can go right to the full tablespoon, and it's going to be really, really helpful for you. But you've got to be consistent. Doing this once is not going to do anything. This needs to become a regular part of what you do every single day.
Excellent. All right. And by the way, for the people who complain about bloat, see what happens when you add this in.
Yeah, it's going to help that. You also have to chew your food, right? As New Yorkers, we talk fast, we walk fast, we do everything fast, we eat fast. So please, when you're eating, it's really about stimulating what's called the parasympathetic nerve system, which is about rest and digest, opposite to what's called the sympathetic nerve system, which is fight, flight, survival mode, which most of us are living in every day. So when it's time to eat, ditch the cell phones, right? That's like a rule in our family. No cell phones during dinner time. We sit, we don't stand. It's a time for fun, engaging, happy conversation, not watching the TV, because these things are going to actually stimulate the parasympathetic nerve system. If we're in this fight or flight mode, then the problem with that is that we're in this stressful mode, and now the body shuts down its digestive system. And you can be eating, again, very healthy food. You're not going to digest that. So it's really, really important to try to be in that really good state when you're eating, when you can.
Beautiful. And then let's talk about the food pieces of what we're going to add in, to support proper gut health and function. Go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's important because so many people, when their gut is out of balance, or the gut's a mess, and everybody's got gut issues to some extent, right? The first thing we think of is, oh, what supplement should I take? And we'll get into supplements if you want. Supplements are definitely an important part of the puzzle. But what becomes before that is a strength eating diet, because you cannot supplement your way out of a bad crap diet. When I say crap, CRAP, that stands for completely refined and processed, ultra processed foods, which is obviously the worst thing for the microbiome. So we want to add and we want to stack, right? Stacking is the key thing. So go at your own pace, all right? But what we want to do is add in the 4 major macros. So number 1 is your leafy greens, most important, all right? It's where most of us are not getting enough of in our life. I know as a kid, I hated greens. Now I love them. But we need the leafy greens. Why are they important? Because they're high in minerals like magnesium and potassium and other trace minerals. And that's critical for the gut microbiome. And this is important because a lot of times when people do things like keto or intermittent fasting, which has become very in vogue lately, and if you do it the right way, it can be very healthy. But for many people, they are doing it the wrong way. Well, they'll increase their protein, and sometimes it's way too much protein. They'll increase their fats. Many times it's bad acidic fats. And then what they don't do, because they think like, oh, we got to get rid of the calories, they basically, or the carbs, they don't add the greens in. And then what happens is the gut can go into a state of metabolic endotoxemia, where we increase the protein and the fats, but now we don't have enough greens, not enough minerals. And now these bad bacteria start to flourish. They take over the gut. And again, they make their way into the gut wall and into the body. So we need those leafy greens. Also, it's not just about eating your greens. Think green juice, think green smoothies, think green soups, salads, right? Super, super important. All right, second macro, healthy fats. There are fats that heal and there's fats that kill. So think about things like avocado every morning. It's one of my favorite breakfast go-tos. I'll get an avocado. I'll just do some olive oil. I'll do some sea salt on that, some sprouts. Sometimes I'll cook a grass-fed egg and some grass-fed butter or some coconut oil. I'll put that on top of that. But again, we need those healthy fats. Think about raw nuts. Macadamia nuts will not break your fast. So I love macadamia nuts. Walnuts, they look like your brain. They're great because they're high in omega-3 fats, so they lower inflammation in your brain. Raw almonds, pecans. The ones I typically avoid are things like cashews and pistachios because they tend to be higher in mold. So I don't ignore them all the time. If I'm making like a chia pudding, I do like to have cashews because they get that really creamy texture. But you can also swap the cashews with something called the Brazil nut, which I love. It'll give you that creamy texture. And Brazil nuts are great, no mold, but they're high in selenium, which is great for, if you're fighting cancer, great for your connective tissue, great for your skin. Seeds, chia seeds, hemp seeds, flax seeds. So again, let's add more healthy fats into into our health plate. Then there's the protein. Protein is essential. It's an essential nutrient, but the average American's consuming 5 times the amount of protein. And when that happens, Jen, your body's actually turning that into sugar in the liver. It's called gluconeogenesis. So you can think you're eating the cleanest diet in the world, but if you're eating too much protein, which most of us are, and again, it's essential, but too much is bad, then that turns to sugar. So here's what you want to do. Protein should be the sideshow, not the main event of your meal, right? No more than 2 to 4 ounces per meal. So if that's something like chicken or beef, that's going to be like the size of your fist. If it's something like a piece of fish, it's the size of a checkbook. And then the fourth macro, critical for the gut, is called fiber-rich, slow-burning carbs. So we got to increase our fiber. I mean, the research shows that only 5% of us are getting the recommended 25 to 35 grams of fiber that we need, that the gut microbiome needs on a daily basis. And I think that number needs to be up in the 50 gram, area. But again, just increasing that to 25 to 35 grams is essential. So I want you to think about things like quinoa, wild rice, which is not a grain, right? It's a seed and it's a grass respectively. Think about root vegetables, sweet potatoes with some coconut oil and some cinnamon, spaghetti squash, winter squash, yams, like that's your fiber, right? Fruit as well, like lower sugar fruit. So think anything that ends in berry, blueberries, all right? So it's what I call brain berries, good for the brain. But here's my thing with those. Any fiber, rich, slow burning carb, all those foods I just mentioned, a half of a cup per meal, not to exceed 1 full cup per day. All right. If you just generally follow that, like I got to get all 4 of these macros in my day. It's not about counting calories. It's not about being crazy about like how much of each. Just try to get all 4 of those in with each meal that you do, and you're going to be in a really good state. It's going to strengthen you from the inside out. It's going to lower inflammation. It's going to help heal your leaky gut. And at the end of the day, it helps our longevity.
Awesome. So I have to ask you some questions because there's a lot that people hear about when it comes to gut health and acid. All right. So let's talk about coffee.
Yep.
Where do you land on coffee so that we can help because I know what everybody's thinking. They're like,
I love coffee. Coffee's awesome. Now, here's the crazy part. I never used to drink coffee. I was never a coffee drinker. I was always a green juice guy. And one of our products is called Acid Kicking Coffee Alkalizer. And I came up with this. Actually, I got to give all the credit to Kelly Ripa because she came to me back in 2015. And then, I can say this because she talked about this in the forwards of the book and things like that. But a few weeks after that, she went on my detox with her daughter, and it just had a huge impact, changed her life. And she talked about that. But she's like, I'm still drinking my coffee. Didn't tell him the running joke. And at that point, it was really just for me, such an important thing that she said, because this is about fitting things into your lifestyle. It's not about the other way around. And before she made that comment, I was telling all my clients, don't drink coffee. Don't drink coffee. It's bad. It's acidic. Now, here's the thing with coffee. There's a ton of benefits to coffee. There's so many upsides. But the one huge downside is it's so acidic. I mean, the average cup of coffee is about 100 times more acidic than tap water. So going in through the mouth, it's a liver suppressor. It's an adrenal suppressor. Going in the other way, like an enema, right? That's actually a liver enhancer. So my brain started thinking, like, how can we make this a better version? Because my whole concept, like you said before, like let's add, not take away. It's not about deprivation. It's about moderation. But how can we make a food that we know is acidic, like coffee, and make that a better version of itself? So number one, like let's do our best to make sure we're drinking organic coffee when possible. Have good clean water that mixes with that, because that's like half of the battle. So control to the best that you can control. Me personally, I drink mold-free coffee. I drink a company called Purity. I have no connection to the brand. I don't promote. The reason why I say this is because it's mold-free and I trust the brand. So that's what I choose to drink. But again, above and beyond all of that, you need to kick your coffee's acid before it enters even your body. So that's what made us come up with this product. It took me about 5 years to create it. And all it is a powder that you add to the coffee, and it neutralizes all the acid in the coffee. So now you get that upside minus the downside. So now I'm a coffee drinker. I had to taste test this stuff about 1 million times. So what I do is I'll get like a double shot of organic espresso. I'll get some vanilla almond milk. There's a few different companies that has very, very clean almond milk with like 2 or 3 ingredients only. I'll froth that in there, and then I'll add my powder into that. So there's a lot of different ways you can drink coffee. You can add some grass-fed butter in there. You can add like a little bit of baking soda. I mean, there's a lot of ways to kick its acid, but that's what people have to focus on.
Excellent. Alcohol.
My 2 favorite times. Here's the crazy thing.
I know.
Here's like the crazy thing. It's like, what are the 2 times during the day when our body is most acidic, when we become most acidic? It's when we wake up and we want some energy, or we want that morning ritual, whatever reason you have for drinking 1 cup of coffee or 6 cups of coffees, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, like when we're winding down and we want to have a glass of wine and you want to just kind of like calm your nerves or whatever it is. And again, like coffee's acidic, alcohol is hyper acidic. So on the topic of my never, better, best approach, there are some alcohols we should never have, things like beer, sorry, beer drinkers, but it's a fermented grain. It's like one of the worst things you can put into the body. It just destroys the gut. Middle of the road would be your wine, your red wine, your white wine. But again, red wine has a pH of 3.1. That's 10,000 times more acidic than this water that I'm drinking right here. So obviously it's better than the beer, but there's lots of candida, there's lots of yeast in there. And again, it's going to be very acidic to the body. The best version, the best alcohol, so this is where people get excited, would be something like a grain-free vodka. So like a Chopin or like a Ciroc would be my two favorite ones, tequila or like a gin. Gin has the highest pH of all of them. But on the same topic of thinking, okay, people are going to drink no matter what I say, and we want to make sure that that becomes a better version for their body. So it's not as damaging to the gut, because if I'm putting something into my body, then it goes into my gut, then it hits my blood and my liver, that's 10,000 times more acidic than this water. What is that going to do to my body? Right? Yes, it's going to make me feel like crap. It's going to make me feel tired. It's going to make me not sleep well in the middle of the night because the body's working hard to get rid of that acid. It's going to make me wake up feeling lethargic. I'm not going to get up with that get up and go feeling, maybe I'm feeling a little bit hungover. So let's choose the better version or best version of alcohol. But that's when I created this literally just last year, which is our acid kicking alcohol. What it is, it's a proprietary blend of ionic minerals. And all you need to do is put 5 drops in your drink before you drink it. And that is going to kick all the acid in the alcohol, again, before it even touches your lips. So within a nanosecond, the pH goes from, let's say if you're drinking red wine, 3.1 to 8.5, which is the pH of your gut. So now, instead of irritating your gut, instead of your body having to kind of bring all these buffers in, like your minerals and, encapsulating it with fat, which makes us gain weight and all these other things, now your body can actually assimilate it in a much healthier, safer way. It's not going to cause that irritation in your gut. It's not going to cause the irritation to the liver. Now, listen, if you're having 20 drinks, obviously that's an issue, right? But if you're having a few cocktails, you're going to wake up the next morning, you're not going to be hungover. So this is how we can make your lifestyle a true lifestyle and not make it about, man, I got to give up that. I got to give up that, because no one loves that. It's not good for our psychology. And I hate to say it, most of the time, we'll do this for a few weeks or a few months, and then we just give up and we get right back. And this is what happens in January 1. I mean, by January 15, right, 92% of people fail with the resolutions. Why? Because it's based on pain. It's based on deprivation. So the whole mindset, which I love what you said before, is let's add and let's make this food or drink a better version or the best version that we can, so it's not as damaging to our body.
All right, last one on this front is sweeteners.
All right. There's 2 things that are worse than sugar, in my opinion, and not my opinion, the research that's out there, and there's tons of it. Number 1 would be seed oils, which are very damaging to your cardiovascular system and your brain, of course, but artificial sweeteners. They're super popular. Why is that? Because there's no calories, but they're giving you that sweetness that you're looking for. But the problem is that when you ingest these, like aspartame, by the way, do you know that aspartame is in over 6,000 products? It's insane.
I know.
And by the way, just, I don't know if this was a few months ago or last year. Time is all like one day to me these days, but they actually came out finally with a study, the IARC. It's basically, it's like an extension of the WHO. They came out saying that now artificial sweeteners are a carcinogen. I mean, we've been talking about this for years and years and years and years. And yeah, the last time they actually evaluated this was over 40 years ago, which is hard to actually believe. But we know that it's a neurotoxin. We know it kills brain cells. We know it destroys the gut. Because here's what happens. When you take these artificial sweeteners in, they basically go through your gut microbiome undigested. And then what happens is once they go into the intestines, your good, healthy bacteria start to feed on it, and then they die. Something like sucralose, which is a very common sweetener, kills over 50% of the healthy bacteria in your gut. That causes what's something called dysbiosis, which is an imbalance in the gut. That will lead to leaky gut, and then the war begins, right? So artificial sweeteners are dangerous. They're poison. Aspartame metabolizes into a couple different amino acids, but one of those is actually methanol, which comes from wood alcohol, and that metabolizes into formaldehyde in your body. So literally, when you take in these artificial sweeteners, you're putting in the same things that they embalm dead bodies with. It's insane. It's insane. But you see them in like every coffee shop, every cafeteria, those little yellow and blue and white packets. They are the very worst thing that you can put into the body. You need to avoid them like the plague if you want to be healthy.
Absolutely. By the way, everybody, in all of this conversation, we have nutrition nuggets on aspartame. We have nutrition nuggets on Brazil nuts, right? There's so many of these things that our conversation today is really just reinforcing so much that I encourage everybody to go back and listen to some of these episodes again, now having the context, right? Even more so of understanding kind of why we're having these conversations all the time.
Yep.
So wrapping this up, at the risk of opening a can of worms as we wrap up, but it aligns with, the sweeteners conversation. Your new book is about sugar.
Worms as in parasites?
Right, right, yeah. Your new book is about sugar.
Yeah.
Talk to us, what does everybody really need to know about sugar as it relates to gut health and inflammation?
Yeah. It's a mineral deficiency. It's a magnesium deficiency. I mean, yes, it's an addiction. It's 8 times more addictive than cocaine, which is why it's so hard for so many people to give up. And I was addicted for years, as I know you were as well, Jen. And the giving up, white knuckle approach, deprivation approach, it just doesn't work. I mean, albeit a few people go about it that way, but the problem is that you're not addressing the underlying deficiencies in your body that's actually making you crave sugar and the toxins as well. The toxin would be something like candida. So many times when we crave sugar, we have an overgrowth of candida in our gut and also in the body. And a symptom of that would be like brain fog, forgetfulness. You'll see some white on the tongue, which is called thrush. That's candida, right? But they need sugar to survive. So it's like not your body craving the sugar, it's these creepy crawlers. But we also need minerals, especially magnesium, because the reality is that your body needs about 54 molecules of magnesium to neutralize just 1 molecule of sugar. And we're so deficient in magnesium. It's the 4th most abundant mineral in the body, but it's the number 1 biggest deficiency, along with omega-3 fatty acids, something like fish oil. So we need to increase the magnesium levels in our body. We need about 600 milligrams a day. And if you're eating, let's say 80% plant-based, which some of you may, some of you might not be, but use that as a benchmark, 80% plant-based, you're going to get about 200 milligrams of magnesium into your diet. Our food has just become depleted. Our soil is depleted. The animals that are eating off of the soil are depleted. So we are depleted. So we have to supplement with magnesium. So know that we have to make up that 400 milligrams ground. So that's why I'll take 2 or 3 capsules of my acid-kicking magnesium or whatever magnesium you choose to do every day. So I take a mineral supplement, I take a magnesium supplement, but I also focus on magnesium-rich foods. Again, spinach, kale, watercress, leafy greens like romaine lettuce. So you want to get more of those into the diet. Do something like an Epsom salts bath, which is magnesium sulfate, which is great at detoxifying. And again, your skin is the biggest mouth of the body. 70% of those things that go on your skin go into the body. So it's a great way transdermally to get magnesium. For our children, when you have little children, you can get like a magnesium lotion and put that on your children's arms and legs, because again, that's going to go into the body. But we need to increase the magnesium levels. And as you start to add these things in that are high in magnesium, again, green juices and smoothies, what's going to happen is your affinity and addiction to that sugar will come down. Not to mention your taste buds change every 14 days. So this is how a lifelong addiction to sugar, I was able to crush my cravings in literally about 3 weeks or so, give or take. It wasn't like anything magical. It was literally just me adding in these foods that are giving me the magnesium, the minerals that my body was missing all along that made me crave the sugar in the first place. And there's also healthy things like healthy fats, slow down how sugars get metabolized. So eat more healthy fats. But as you add these things in, it doesn't have to be a ton of things. Just pick one thing. Like start with a green juice. It could be our green juice powder. It could be an avocado. Start with one thing and start to add that. And like Jen's saying, stack it and stack it and stack it. And before you know it, the good will outweigh the bad. Now that might take a little bit longer, which is okay, but we want to win this game. Make this a lifestyle, not a diet, right? What's the first 3 letters of diet? We don't want that.
Exactly. All right, time for our rapid fire off-topic questions that I ask every expert. Are you ready?
I'm nervous.
All right. Don't be nervous. What's the best thing you've done for your health this week? What's the naughtiest thing you've done related to your health this week? Because,
my gosh.
Balance.
The best thing I've done for my health this week is my morning ritual, which is I get up, I do sonic vibration. So I just got like a vibration plate. Before I do that, I do a green juice powder. So that's the very first thing I do when I wake up. And then after that, I hop in the sauna for about 20 minutes. So that's like my morning ritual. It is such a powerful way to detoxify. But yeah, I think that's something that we have to focus on. It's not just about the foods, but do some biohacking as well. Oh, and the naughtiest thing. It was my kid's birthday party and he turned 10 and I had a piece of cake. Don't tell anybody.
Please enjoy it all.
No, I'm totally right? Yeah, it was the birthday party. And that's my thing is like, indulge. I did a post on Instagram today because it's the holiday weekend. Like there's going to be barbecues. There's going to be parties. Like it's okay to indulge a little bit. This is not about being perfect. I'm not perfect. I don't want you to be perfect. That's the way to sabotage our dreams. but it's about balance. 70, 80, 90% of the foods need to be foods that strengthen you. So when you do have, something like a piece of cake or a glass of wine or whatever it is, it's like, it's not going to be an issue for your body. That's the goal. It's like finding your balance. And when you do that, you're going to be healthy.
Absolutely. All right. If you weren't a chiropractor and wellness practitioner, what would you do?
I'd be a chef. I've always wanted to be, and I am a raw food chef, but like, that's not what I do. Like, I just love like the whole concept of food. Food is medicine. I just have this like dream. I don't think I'll ever do this because I just never want to go into the food industry of being a chef in a kitchen and like making art of food, but making food that is like so good, so tasty, but healthy. So you think you're eating these foods, you think you're cheating, but you're really not. So that's kind of like what I always wanted to be. I guess I am in a little bit of a way because I love making food here at home. But yeah, that would be it.
Nice. All right. Favorite book on any topic other than your area of expertise, or you could give us a fiction book.
The Peaceful Warrior, The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. They made a movie of it as well with Nick Nolte. But underneath that title says a book that changes lives. And it is a book that changed my life. It's just if you haven't read that book, read it. I've probably read it 5 times. I'm not going to get into what the book is about, but it's really about we all go through adversity in our lives. We all have things that just knock us down. And it's about how we can refocus on what's the most important thing in our life, present time consciousness, and really kind of what we should be focused on. And it's such a powerful, powerful book. There's 2 books that came after that, but the first one is just killer.
Love it. If you could cure one ailment, disease, or sickness, what would it be?
Oh, man. Oof. I would say, 3 things that came to my mind when you said, and I'll tell you what the one would be cancer, Alzheimer's, and mold sickness. I'll never forget when I was really sick with mold. I was like 30 pounds less than I was. And a friend who had testicular cancer and beat the cancer came up to me. He's like, Daryl, he's like, when I was fighting my cancer, I knew the enemy I was fighting, but like yours is the invisible enemy. Like, and that was such a powerful statement to me because mold toxicity is a serious, serious poison. It just doesn't affect people in Southwest Florida. It affects everybody in places like Arizona, California, even New York. 70% of the apartments in New York are infested with mold. So that would be, but I would say the biggest one would be Alzheimer's because I've experienced dementia-like symptoms when I had mold sickness. I had 4 areas of my brain that atrophied so that when they tested my brain, I was actually reading at the level of a 4th grader because the inflammation destroyed so much of my brain. Hopefully I still had a little intelligence in there. But if you were to ask me a question, Jen, I literally had to walk around with a pad and paper and write the question down because I couldn't remember what the question was. It was insane. So Alzheimer's is so sad. My godmother passed away from it. We're making so many headways. But again, Alzheimer's parallels inflammation of the brain. We're calling it type 3 diabetes. This thing is preventable, but the problem is this plaquing starts 20 years in advance. So right now, in this moment, we have to assume that cancer, heart disease, Alzheimer's, diabetes can happen and take our life serious so that we start to make the lifestyle changes in our diet, in our supplements, and in the ways that we actually manage stress so that we never get to that point. I want to live a long life, well lived. I want to live past 100, the 100-year lifestyle, but I want to get there in style. I want to be like my grandparents who both died at 88, but the last 10 years of their life was literal suffering and so sad to see.
Yeah, for sure. If you were a superhero, what would be your superpower?
Oh, wow. My superpower. I would love to be teleportation for sure.
Same.
Yeah, cool.
So many of these are the same. It's really crazy. Okay. What's your biggest pet peeve?
People chewing with their mouth open.
I get it. All right, last one.
I yell at my son every night.
Right.
Son, don't do this. All right, go on.
Last one, in your opinion, what's the next frontier in wellness?
Genetic testing is big. The gut microbiome is the biggest. But we have to remember that your genes are important. Genetic testing is critical, but there is always a trigger, all right? So that's like the gun, but the trigger is your epigenetics. The microbiome is the hottest topic in health, in wellness, even in Silicon Valley right now. I mean, what they're investing in, and for good reason, because we know now that your gut microbiome, you have 10 times more bacteria in your gut than you do cells. You have 100 times more viruses. Your gut microbiome is where 95% of your serotonin is made, not your brain, which is your happy, healthy hormone. 80% of your nerve system lives there. Before I said 80% of your immune system lives there. So it is an area that everybody needs to focus on, whether you feel great or whether you feel bad. You need to focus on your gut. You need to fix your gut. If you do that, that is the key to healthy skin, to lowered weight, to better brain function. That is the key to living longer and your longevity.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. Daryl Gioffre, thank you for being here. Tell everybody how to connect with you, where to learn more, all the places.
And thank you so much. Your podcast is awesome. I meant what I said about the name. Every time you say that, I just get a big smile on my face. It's the whole balance act, right? But you can find me at getoffyouracid.com. On Instagram, it's at getoffyouracid, which is more the product side, but more of my kind of gut side and all the information is at Dr. Daryl Gioffre, DrDaryl We do virtual coaching, gut microbiome testing, a lot of really cool things.
Excellent. And we'll put links to everything in the episode notes to make it easy for everybody. Just thank you again. Appreciate your time, your expertise, your energy, all of it.
Right on. Right back at you, Jen. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Well, all right, everybody. On Friday in this week's Nutrition Nugget, we're talking about tongue scraping. Now, this one came up in our Defy Aging episode, and I think it was Age Defying Insights was the name of that episode. And I made a mental note for us to talk about it. So what is it? Why might we want to do it? We'll discuss it all on Friday in this week's Nutrition Nugget. So be sure wherever you're listening, click the plus sign or the follow button, and your app will alert you when it goes live on Friday at 3 a.m. Eastern. As always, everybody, I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck. Connect with me on Instagram or all social media. I am at Jenn Trepeck, JENNTREPECK. Website is asaladwithasideofries.com. Pick your platform. Send a message. I want to hear your takeaways, your ideas, your questions. This is also the easiest way to learn more about working with me as your health coach. Dr. Daryl Gioffre, thank you again one more time for being here.
Ooh, thank you so much, Jen. Keep up the awesome work. You are an acid kicker, and I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. And friends, if you are not already, join our membership program by going to glow.fm/saladwithasideofries to show your support for this podcast, this community, and most importantly, your health. You'll get this week's recipe for the turkey burgers with spinach, feta, and tzatziki, Dr. Gioffre's 3-day gut detox, and your quarterly live Q&A, which is 30 minutes just you and me. So until next week, remember, it's not just about too little acid or too much acid. It's about the right acid. So let's kick acid, and we will see you next week.
All right. Love it.
Well, friends, that's it for today's episode of Salad with a Side of Fries. Congratulations for making yourself and your health a priority. Thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to click subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform. Share us with a friend, and we'll be back next week. Always remember, you deserve it, and you are worth it. Happy healthy.